welcome to the Women of BSV show. We ladies here today are your hosts. My name is Rory. We have Ruth, Diddy, Melissa, Casey Hamilton, and we're delighted to have as our guest today, Sirtoshi. Sirtoshi, we know you as the host of Sirtoshi TV. You bring the daily show as well as the daily chart show, bumping out the airwaves of YouTube and Streamanity. But for those of us, our friends around the world that could be watching and tuning in today with us, please introduce yourself to us all.
Great stuff. Well, thanks for the intro and thanks for inviting me on your show. I am extremely excited about this. That was one amazing intro, by the way. I was like bopping along. Reminded me of my days at Gatecrasher.
Oh, no.
Yes, indeed. That was awesome.
I'm trying to catch up with you.
Yeah, so I am the defender of Bitcoin. Because obviously, you know, Bitcoin is under attack. And I was like, people need to know the truth about what has happened. So basically because there's no information out there for anybody to understand Bitcoin. There's the white paper, but the white paper tells you the technicals. That's it. The white paper just simply tells you how to mine Bitcoin and how to get it. That's it. So there's very little fundamental understanding about what Bitcoin is. You know, you can read the Bitcoin Standard by Andreas Antonopoulos, but he doesn't know what he's talking about. And I can prove he doesn't know what he's talking about. He even said in his book that, buying coffee was the number one example in his book for a use case of Bitcoin. And then he backpedaled on that. What a snake in the grass. You know, and then there's Saifuddin Ammous, whatever his name is, the Bitcoin Standard, getting quotes from Michael Saylor, who again is utterly clueless on the politics of SegWit. You know, that's basically turned Bitcoin from a commodity to a security, which means it has absolutely zero fundamental value as money. So it's utterly worthless. So this was, I set myself up as a way for people to get the knowledge that I initially wanted, because there was nowhere to get it. And so I basically had to track down who Satoshi Nakamoto was. It kind of obvious that it was Craig, and then kind of worm my way in up the sort of Bitcoin social ladder in the hierarchy as it was, to sort of like get to know these different people. And then eventually my journey through Bitcoin allowed me to piece together all the different bits and throw them together and finally come up with, you know, what it is that gives Bitcoin its fundamental value that no one knows. So everybody goes on about the technicals, you know, which is like speed, cost, and scale. But, you know, every network is bigger, stronger, faster, cheaper, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's competition is infinite. It doesn't stop. So, you know, how fast is fast enough? Well, as Satoshi Nakamoto said, Bitcoin never really hits a scaling ceiling. So how do you argue about that one? Do you know what I mean? Well, yeah, we're bigger than you. Well, we're bigger than you. Well, yeah, we're bigger than you. It's like, well, you know, so what? What is it that gives Bitcoin its fundamental value?
You know, it sounds like you are British. Are you from the UK?
I am indeed.
Yes. So tell us a bit about growing up in the UK. I mean, I guess you didn't play Little League or baseball. Were you into football, or what was it like where you grew up?
All right, yeah. So my background, cool. This is an interesting one. So I guess,
not something you're usually asked.
Nobody's really interested in your background normally, but yeah, we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you know, what can I say? Well, you know, I grew up in a den. My dad was fantastic, Mr. Fox. You know, constantly nicking apples from his yard. You know, running away from the farmer and like stealing his chickens and all that. It was great fun as a kid. You know, and like obviously he came after us with a digger, and we were digging down and down and down and down and down.
He's describing Peter Rabbit here, by the way.
I know. I have the book right here. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic, Mr. Fox. That was my dad. You know, I'm sort of following in his footsteps.
Yes. Wow. Fascinating. So now, in all seriousness, you know, we all do learn a lot from your show, Sirtoshi. And I know that it was a bit personal for you, having listened to your shows before, that you had invested as an individual investor into BTC. And then could you tell us a bit about the heartache that happened there?
Yeah. So well, two things. Obviously, Bitcoin was so it's an academic peer-reviewed white paper. So many people seem to think that it was a business plan written on the back of a fag packet by some gung-ho entrepreneur, just sort of sketched out quickly, and it needed improving. It didn't need improving. That's the argument that they give. This is an academic paper, peer-reviewed, tried and tested. It didn't need to change. The fundamentals were literally set in stone, because that's what makes it a commodity. So I realized that because there was all this speculation in the space, that something was going to happen, that, the powers that be were not simply going to just simply let this carry on. I knew they were going to do something. So as soon as other people started coming in and changing the narrative, going, well, it's no longer digital cash, it's digital gold, and you're not meant to use it, and we're going to restrict the block size. And I was just like, this is absolutely insane. So right from the get-go, I knew there was something afoot here. And so then I realized that kind of like those who really understood Bitcoin were forking. Well, the others told you they were forking the protocol, but they were going to continue the protocol. But effectively, because this other party had stolen the ticker symbol BTC, that Bitcoin had to continue under another ticker symbol, which was BCH. So I obviously jumped in that, but then the market went shooting up, and then it went crashing back down again. And then we were sort of left with two camps, where you've got one camp that was saying, well, actually, you're not going to use it, and it's a load of rubbish anyway. But then you've got the other camp that was led by Roger Ver, who was saying to people, oh, look, it's for it's for buying drugs. It's for if you want to put substances into your body like white powder, and if you want to smoke dope and all that kind of stuff, that's what you should be able to do. And I was just like, this is not the Bitcoin that I wanted to get involved in. And it actually it made me really depressed. Yeah, it made me really depressed.
It's a public blockchain. Like, if you're doing coke, that's a terrible idea. I don't think you should do it, but like,
it was just
not even good advice.
It was just so ridiculous, completely ridiculous. And so I was trying to contact Roger, and I was just like, look, this promotion is really bad. I mean, like, can you imagine families, mum and dads, listening to him promoting the fact that it's okay to put illegal substances into your body? When you've got kids, do you really want your kids growing up taking drugs? Like, honestly, taking psychedelics and stuff, a little bit risky as an adult. If they want to make their own, informed decisions, that's fine. But do you really want, kids growing up with that kind of influence? I was just like, look, this has got nothing to do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is money, and we're taking the power of money away from those individuals who just simply print it, that have basically got everybody by the short and curlies, who can manipulate, the world, because they can just simply, take your money away. Whereas this is what Bitcoin solves. As Craig has said many times, it takes power away. So it was really getting into the fundamentals that are not out there, that I basically had to piece together through all my experiences of going through university, or even being at school and enjoying business studies, and then studying economics and law at A level, and then studying financial services at university, and literally, pulling together everything that I had learned to basically fully understand Bitcoin. And when I eventually got it, and I got to the bottom of this proverbial rabbit hole that everybody talks about, it was then that I was just like, I've got it. I've got this. Now I need to start informing other people about this, and then, it just Bitcoin, the understanding of Bitcoin just never stops. It just grows and grows and grows. So the fundamentals, when you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, get you to the paradox of the centralized starting point, which I've explained. But then you've got the technicals, which are speed, cost, and scale, that never stop, because they're competitive. You're constantly improving it all the time. So, that's where the fun starts. So in a way, that's one of the reasons why Craig is always keen to talk about the technicals, because that's the fun part. It's like, how can we tune this? It's almost like tuning a sports car. How can we improve it? How can we tinker with it? How can we get it bigger, better, faster, stronger, constantly, all the time? Beat the competition. But obviously what he doesn't do is explain the fundamentals, which are the basics that don't change. I guess he's probably bored of that, but this is what so many people really need to get to grips with, and that I started talking about and preaching. So
I think that's a really good point, Sirtoshi, that there's a real lack of education on what Bitcoin even is. And it's one of the things I'd like us to maybe dedicate a whole program to on this channel, actually, is we can't assume that people know the basics, because they really don't. Crypto has been sold as this just like this money-making machine that's highly volatile, and it's just some kind of, way to make, your retirement or something. And it's really not that at all. And so, there is definitely a real gap for people like yourself to bring people up to speed with the education of it. And I've been reading Craig Wright's own website for years now, and I'm constantly learning. It's not like it's a job that ever ends, is it?
It's great. I love it.
Didn't Craig say that he'd been working on this for like 24 years? This is 24 years of his life that he's been working. Yeah. So Toshi,
could you imagine keeping it secret that long?
Yeah.
I can't keep a secret that long.
Well, one thing that...
Go on, sorry. No, what I was
Melissa did a dramatic reading of the white paper on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious. And so I wonder, what did you learn from that? Did you learn new facts from the dramatic presentation? What was that experience like, Melissa?
Well, I realized that I actually hadn't read it before I did that, which is bad, because it's like, if you are going to be talking about Bitcoin on any sort of platform and you haven't read it, like, what is wrong with you? And I was guilty of that myself. So I had to call myself out on that. But I don't know, because that's a good question. I would have to rewatch it to be able to give you a good answer on that. Because the technical part of it, while I was reading it, I had to go over it a couple times and be like, I don't really know what that means, right? And if you're doing a voiceover thing, you have to know what you're talking about for it to have the arc. So, the technical parts with the equations definitely still kind of murky to me, but all the other stuff, I was like, wow, no one talks about any of this.
Right, except for Sirtoshi. He's on it 8 days a week.
Well, do you know
3-4 times a day?
The white paper is the white paper is the technicals. To me personally, it's just like, well, the white paper is explaining 2 + 2 = 4, and it's just like, well, but what is it that makes this magic? What is it that separates Bitcoin from all these other shit coins that are out there? The white paper doesn't explain this, and that's what really caught my image. I was just like, how has he solved this paradox? If something is started, it means that anyone else can start exactly the same thing at anywhere at any time, which means there's an infinite supply, which means it has a fundamental value of 0. So how has he solved this paradox? And this is what was fascinating, because in order to solve the paradox, what he's done is he's created this system called, or implemented this system called proof of work, which dilutes the central point of authority and control over time, which is why he had to use a pseudonym and hide away for 10 years to let this dilution process take place. And so it was only when the keys to the Tulip Trust were returned to him on the 1st of January 2020 that I realized that he'd obviously chosen that 11-year period. And at the end of that 11-year period, he was going to be like, right, now I can come out, because I don't know if you ladies have seen the probability chart that I posted out the other day. Did you see that?
No.
Yes. I didn't study it thoroughly, but I did have a glance.
Oh, the one where you've got the 0 to 99 point and then 99.99. That one.
Yeah. That's the one.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah.
So the chances of a network ever growing for a period of 11 years without anybody finding out who the creator is 0.04%, so you can be 99.951% certain, that no other coin is going to compete with the fundamental value of Bitcoin.
How did you arrive at this number?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So what you do is, let's say if you take each year as a turn, it's a bit like gambling on red or black, sort of 50-50. So each year being a go. So what you would do is you would say, what are the chances of somebody finding it in the first year? Well, you have a go. The odds are like 50-50. Then you cut it down by 75, and then it goes less and less and less. And you basically work out the odds that way. So that's why Craig actually felt comfortable delivering a speech in Arnhem, because I think I worked out, the percentage of the chance of another a network even growing for a period of 8 years without anybody finding out who the creator was, is still something like 99.6%. That it would never happen. So that's why when Craig was saying, it was, Bitcoin was safe from me to come out then, because there was a 99.6% chance that no other network would achieve the neutral growth by then. And that was in 2017.
Wasn't there a statute of limitations as well? I think.
Yes, there was that. I can't remember when that runs out, but it was the probability of it. But even in the speech in Arnhem, he still never said categorically, I am Satoshi Nakamoto. He's never really, I can't remember when he first admitted it, actually. I think he probably admitted that he was Satoshi Nakamoto, maybe to some people in maybe 2018, something like that. When he was doing some key signings and whatnot. But really, it's the odds. And one of the reasons I recognize that is because he's Aspergis. Aspergis people cannot help themselves. They meticulously plan everything. So when you realize that, you realize, that he's planned everything out. So then if he's planned it, then he's measured it. And if he's measured it, there's numbers involved. So then you've just got to look at the numbers, and it's just like, there we go. That makes sense.
Yes. And why does any of that matter to someone in the neighborhood or my auntie or my uncle? How is that even relevant to the overall business of Bitcoin?
Because there's 3 types of value that Bitcoin has got. It's got fundamental value, and without fundamental value, the technical value and the economic value are completely superfluous. So the technical value is the speed, cost, and scale of the network. How fast, how cheap, how big. That's the technical value. The economic value is its application and its utility. What does it do? How useful is it? But its fundamental value is how neutral is it? Because money has to be neutral. So therefore, people are going to trust the network that is the most neutral network, so that nobody has control over their money. And that's where the fundamental value comes in with. So why would you trust your money to Blockstream when they control BTC, because they segregated the signatures, on the network? The signatures are what holds everybody accountable, which means that nobody has if somebody is accountable, it means they can't do anything on the network that nobody else would know about, because they're equally accountable to everybody else, just like anybody else is who use the network. Whereas when you segregate the signatures, whoever it was that segregated the signatures means that they also have the power to do other things on the network, which they're not signing for, that other people wouldn't know about. So why would you use that as a money?
It is bizarre, isn't it? Because as soon as they segregated the signatures with a segregated witness, it's like they made it not legally enforceable anymore as money, surely. I mean, that's just my kind of take on it. I could be wrong about that, but
they turned it from they turned Bitcoin from a commodity into a security the moment they did that.
Yeah. Explain to us why. Give us the breakdown of the difference between a security and a commodity.
Yeah, and then we can go on to tokens and stuff, so we can get that all cleared up. So a commodity, the best way to describe it and remember it, is something that is common to everyone. That's why it's got the word commodity, common. So a commodity is something that doesn't have a central point of authority or control, that can be commoditized because it can be used and therefore has value. So, things like coffee, wheat, gold, natural minerals, just things that anybody can get hold of and use, or, sell or trade, if they have the resources to be able to get hold of it and trade it, make it refine things, make it useful for people, and make a living that way from it. So that is a commodity. A security is something that represents that secures your right to something. So in other words, you're not receiving a good or a product in return for your money. Instead, you're handing your money over and securing your right to something with
at a
that
later
money.
date. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you would get a certificate, a security certificate, saying you've handed us this money, and therefore you are entitled to X, Y, Z. So you get this certificate, which means that you are now entitled to a share of a company, an annual dividend, shares in a property, ownership of land. That's what a security is. You've secured your rights. You've secured your rights to something.
So it's
really
one step removed from the thing. Almost.
Yeah, pretty much. So this is why the Securities and Exchange Commission always insist that every single security is registered with them. So then they can be sure that that it's registered, that your ownership, your security, your rights of that security is registered with law enforcement. So therefore you can claim something on it in the future if you need to. Whereas if your security is not registered with law enforcement, they're just like, well, we have no record of this, so therefore we can't enforce that security. They shouldn't have sold it to you anyway because it's got no value. So they're basically ripping you off, and if the reason they didn't register it with us is because we would never have allowed it anyway, because there is no value behind this thing they sold you, because they've just taken your money and basically done a runner. So
and how is a security different from money?
So a security just gives you rights, secures your right to something. That's why it's called a security. So, like I said, it either secures your rights of ownership, secures your rights to equity in a company, secures your rights to a dividend. So you're handing money over for something that is not a good or a service, but something that isn't tangible, necessarily. You can't put it in your hand. That's why law enforcement has to say, right, you have to register the security with us, so that if in the future, if somebody's denying your claim, we can say, well, actually, that is a legal security. We deregister it. You are entitled to it.
And do you know the history of securities? When did they emerge?
So securities emerged basically from the Howey test, which was the SEC versus Howey Co. I can't remember the exact dates, but I'll find them in a second.
So that recent.
Yeah, let me just see if I can find it. Give me 2 seconds. I sent the link to the group chat that we've got. I'll just bring this up.
Yes, I saw
Don't mind
that.
me for a second.
1933.
Is that when it was?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just bring this up.
So it came around right after the Depression then. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah,
I think a lot of financial things came about then, right? Like,
it's when the Fed was established, wasn't it?
Yes.
I know that one.
Securities Exchange Act of 1934.
So right around there.
And I remember watching your show, Sirtoshi. You spoke about in the history even of the Federal Reserve, that was at 1930 as well, right?
The Federal Reserve. I can't remember. I know I've done a show on it.
1913, yeah.
Oh, 13. Okay, yes.
Yeah, but earlier.
So a bit earlier.
Yeah. So the Howey test said that the way to determine a security offering is one, an investment of money, which is the transfer of money from someone to someone else. 2, in a common enterprise. So in other words, it's an offer that's effectively open to everybody. So it's not a unique agreement between you and an individual. 3, with the expectation of profit. So you're expecting an increased return on your investment. So you're getting money back and some. and then fourth, to be derived from the effort of others. So your expectation of value being added to whatever it is that you're investing in. So this is why when you buy a bond from a government, because you can't have security of a government because you can't own a government. A government is voted in and out. Nobody owns a government. A government is democracy. So the reason you buy bonds from a government is because a bond, just like somebody used to call a deposit on a house, a bond, when you put a bond down for the property, it's a reservation, it's a deposit. So you're depositing money with the government in return for interest being paid on the money that you've lent them. So the government is like a business saying, we'll take, if you give us this money, we'll give you a return on that money of X, Y, and Z, and it's backed by the government and their coffers, basically.
But then they'll tax you on the profit that you get from giving it to them for that time period.
Well, there are tax. There are tax rates. Obviously, there's income tax and stuff. So yeah, it's there is that. But I'm trying to sort of like explain the definition of a security. The definition of a security and a bond, they're both exactly the same, except the security is security of something, whereas a bond is just you can't own a bit of the government. But it's the same thing. You're giving money and you're expecting something in return because you're not trading
kind of a contract for it, like an agreement. So tell us how this relates to the crypto universe then.
Yeah, so this is fascinating. So Bitcoin that was described in the Bitcoin white paper is the only way to commoditize data, which is what makes Bitcoin a commodity. So the way Craig designed Bitcoin, there we go, that's the white paper, nice one, was to make it so that it didn't have that central point of authority and control. Now, the issue with that is that if it doesn't have a central point of authority or control, it means that it can be manipulated to be controlled. But the trade-off is that if you do manipulate it to control it, you crash its fundamental value to zero because it's no longer a commodity. So this is what all these people like Blockstream have done when they segregated the signatures. They centrally controlled the network, but have turned BTC into a security because they are now not accountable to anybody, which means it has no fundamental value as money. And if it has no fundamental value as money, it means that all it's got now is a speculative price because people don't realize this. But when education catches up with speculation, its speculative price will soon match its fundamental value at zero, and it won't be able to economically sustain the network that it supports.
This concept of securities, this has been since 1933, and this concept of making it rich, buying that stock early, and then it goes up and, you have all of these dividends and then all these Benjamins. So that is the mindset, right? Whereas money is different. Money is something used to exchange. It's for convenience between people, to trade and buy things and, sell things and have a business or entrepreneurialism. So there's a difference between what Bitcoin is and this whole securities mindset, really, is what I'm thinking.
Well, yes. So the way Craig made Bitcoin a commodity is, like I said, is by solving the paradox of the centralized starting point. That is what makes Bitcoin a commodity, which is why it's so important to understand it. So that's why when he released the white paper 2 months before starting the network, that 2-month period gave its starting point credibility because he released the white paper to a cryptographic mailing list to a group of very competent individuals who would have understood what they were looking at, and all of them had an equal opportunity to start the network. So that's what gave the starting point credibility. So 2 months is considered a reasonable amount of time within law. So then he also knew that it was important to start the network under a pseudonym so that he could step back and then let proof of work dilute that centralized starting point over a period of 10 years. And it's that neutral growth, like I said, over 10 years that gives it its fundamental value. And ultimately, like I said, there's a 0.04% chance of any other network achieving that, which is very, very slim. So this is what gives Bitcoin its status as a commodity. Whereas, let's say Litecoin also uses proof of work, but because Charlie Lee started it and has admitted he started it right from the get-go, that discredits it. So if you're choosing between which money to use, you're going to choose the most neutral money. So therefore, you're going to choose the network that is the most neutral network that no one has control over. And this is why it's really important to understand those 5 pillars of decentralization. So not only does the starting point have to be diluted by using proof of work for a period of 10 years, but then in order to make the network neutral, the most important thing is the chain of signatures. It's the chain of signatures that holds everybody equally accountable so that no one can do anything on the network that nobody else would know about. It's really important. And then the next 2 are very similar. You need a fixed supply, just simply so nobody can control it. You need a locked protocol. So again, nobody can control it and it's permissionless and anyone and everyone can use it. And then you need effectively sort of infinite scale, because if you don't have constant scale, there isn't new market for those who economically sustain the network to compete for. And it means that they're going to start taking market share off their competitors, which will eventually lead to centralization. So that's why you need sort of infinite scale, effectively sort of infinite divisibility. And then finally, you need competition between those separate entities that economically sustain the network. So, that's the only way you can commoditize data. There is literally no other way. And so that's why when you're buying these shitcoins or these tokens, you've got to say, well, does it have neutral growth? Well, no, they don't have neutral growth because somebody's just made up a token, on Ethereum, or in our case, on the BSV network, and they're trying to flog it to somebody saying, oh, well, this is Cub token, this is Woofy coin. It could be the next Bitcoin. No, it's an illegal security offering. It does nothing. It represents nothing. You're not getting a good or service in return for your money that you're trading for that token. Therefore, it is an illegal security offering.
Let me just jump in there, Sirtoshi. Is that negated if people give out these tokens freely, though? I mean, is it only a problem if they sell them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can give somebody a bit of data for free. Nothing wrong with that. It's like sending an email. But the issue is when it's offered for sale, under the premise. Well, yeah, because why would you buy it? If you're selling it as a bit of art, and somebody says, "Oh, well, I quite fancy this bit of data because it's art," that's different. Somebody is willing to pay for a good or a service. The good being a bit of art. You can sell a bit of art. But art is also a unique sale. So part of being a security is a common enterprise. Whereas if you're just selling art to an individual, that's not a common enterprise. That's an individual sale between, one person. Whereas if you are offering this, if you've got an offer that's on the table for everybody and anybody and everybody can pile in and buy it, like a share in a company, that's fine. But if you're offering a token to one and all, saying, oh, you can buy this token because, well, why are you buying this token? What reason are they giving you to buy this token? And what are you receiving in return? What value has it got? If you are not getting any value for the money that you are giving somebody, chances are it's an illegal security offering.
So when it comes to
this is why literally the coin market cap is literally made up of $1.3 trillion of illegal securities.
Right.
So Toshi, when it comes to art and it comes to music being sold as NFTs, how does that like what do they need to be registered so that they can sell them legally? Or like for example, a music track, and you sell that as an NFT, but it's then put onto an exchange, and then people are, kind of the price is going up and down. Is that still classed as illegal? Is that legal or is that illegal? I mean, does that track need to be registered with the SEC because you're selling it that way, or can an artist just continue to carry on, you know, putting out art, putting out music, but just selling it in that way without having to register it with the Securities Commission? I'm a little bit, you know, I need a bit more education on that side of things.
Well, yeah, you can do that. So an NFT is a non-fungible token. So a non-fungible token is a token that is unique. So therefore, if you are buying that token, you are buying something that is unique that nobody else has got. So therefore, you're buying it because it's either art or it's music or it's data of some kind that you're getting value for. So that's fine. But what I'm saying
uniqueness
is
gives it the value.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is you can't sell crap.
Value.
So with tokenized or tokens in general, there's a lot of creative ways people can use tokens on top of the Bitcoin protocol. But if you're using it as something just to, like, almost in place of a currency, then it's illegal.
Doesn't it determine too where you are? Because this is all like global for the first time too, where your jurisdictions with money typically were bound by borders before. So that's kind of confusing too.
Right. Like
well, not really. I mean, if you're scamming someone,
depends where it's your laws where you are, where you issue it.
Right.
If you're a snake oil salesman selling snake oil, that's wrong. Because people are not getting value for money. That's what an illegal security is. You're selling crap. So, like I said, if a security has to be registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission in order for you to have a legal claim on that in the future if a dispute arises. You know, so if somebody's saying, "Oh, give us your money and we'll ensure you ownership of, you know, a bit of land or, you know, equity in a company, or, you know, which gives you rights to a dividend, you know, and all this kind of stuff," you know, that's a security that you need backing for. If you're buying a non-fungible token because you want the data that comes with it, which is art or music or whatever else, that's also fine because you're getting something. You're getting something of value for your money. Whereas if you're just buying a token that is not registered with the SEC and doesn't represent anything of value at all, and isn't art, you know, and isn't data that does something or, you know, has got any value, that's an illegal security offering. You know, and the people who get in trouble are, one, going to be the people who created them, and secondly, the people who are also facilitating the sale of them.
The exchanges.
Yeah. So all these coins listed on the morning run, you know, they are all illegal security offerings. You know, and
sorry.
No, answer me this though. Sorry, can I just get this out of my head while I'm thinking about it? If they're sold for money resale, is that an issue? Is it just if they are being sold for money when they're first issued that it's a problem?
Or resale is also a problem.
Is it?
Well, yeah, because you're selling. People are buying it with the expectation of profit, you know, and it's not necessarily going to be like I said. If you buy an illegal security and then you sell an illegal security, you are not the one facilitating the sale. You know, because it goes through this exchange that is selling them. So again, the only people who get in trouble are those who created it and those who are facilitating the sale of it.
To set it up, what happened is we had seen this news flash about, oh, buy the morning run, and you buy the token and you get the paper. And in the paper, there was a Doodles, a Sirtoshi Doodles comic strip. There were articles written by Connor and, you know, Kurt, and Daniel Crowitz was even headlining there. And so I thought, what a cool paper. You know, I really love newspapers too. So I thought, why not buy it? Well, then I saw the price, and then I saw the fact that it's a token. And then I thought, well, I've heard about tokens, but I've never quite seen how they work or what the point is. So I wanted to try it out. But then as I kept asking, there were not many answers until finally I asked you all. And then we said, hey, let's talk about it. And Sirtoshi's done a lot of research on this area. So he's going to set us up for success in understanding this topic. And so in this situation, I mean, all the people that are involved in the morning run, they're smart people. They're people fully engaged in business. They're builders in BSV. So it's not to say that they're off at all, but maybe they're just doing a prank, or maybe they don't know. I mean, why do you think this could happen in a place full of serious business people?
Well, you can. Well, this is it. So you have to sort of differentiate people with specialities. So you have techies that are just like, oh, you know, we can do this and we can do that. You know,
Sure.
You had techies in Blockstream who segregated the signatures. You know, but people don't understand the legal significance of what has happened there. You know, like Roger Ver and his mates adding Schnorr signatures. They're like, oh, well, look at that. We can do all this. We can do all that. It's like, yeah, well, you can do that. You can also walk into a shop, take a packet of crystals off the shelves, and then leg it. Just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should.
Okay.
Or that it's legal. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So with these guys, you know, in the morning run, you know, so long as the token that they are selling the newspaper for doesn't fluctuate in price, and therefore people are not buying it with the expectation of profit, and therefore you're effectively buying the newspaper. Really, what they should be saying is, well, you just simply buy the newspaper and you get this NFT, and you get this NFT with it. You know, it's a bit like saying, oh yeah, you know, you can buy the alloys and you get the car for free. Well, that might sound really funny and kind of cool until something happens in the sale and there is actually a fault with the car, and you go to the solicitors and they're just like, well, you never actually bought the car, you bought the wheel.
It's free. Oh.
Yeah.
Right. And why not just sell the newspaper for BSV and swipe a wallet button?
Well, exactly. That's what they should be doing. You know,
Yeah,
they just, like I said, they're techies. They haven't thought this through. I mean, this is what is so amazing about Craig, in the fact that he was able to pull this all together. You have to have an understanding of law, economics, technicals, like literally everything.
Yeah.
You know, to find somebody with that capability and interest and technical know-how to be able to pull it off and create what he's created is just absolutely phenomenal.
It's the rarest thing in the universe, isn't it? So do you think that it's a sense that just because lots of people are doing it, they figure, I've got the cover of lots of people are doing this, and so it's okay? Or are they just waiting until somebody says no, and then they'll stop? I mean, I think there is a sense, particularly with entrepreneurs, that they tend to just go ahead and do stuff and wait until somebody complains.
Well, yeah. So this is what I've said to them. Their attitude is, oh, you know, we should experiment as much as we can, move fast and break stuff. Well, unfortunately, move fast and break stuff does not mean breaking the law.
Right.
Except in crypto, in which case it seems to mean it breaks the law all the time.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is law still grinds away. It will catch up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everything is on chain, so they can't even deny it. It's insane.
Yeah.
I'm trying to warn them about
it. We should have them on to talk about this, because I know I've met Joshua in Atlanta, in London. You know, he's an ace. He's an ace guy. So I'm sure that he has a good reason for having this idea. Maybe it's to start a newspaper business, and then if you get the token, you somehow have a subscription. But to me, as an outsider looking at what they're doing, I think, why are you making it so complicated? Just sell this paper for BSV and I'll be buying it, because I wanna frame it.
Yeah, that's what they should be doing. But like I said, their attitude is like, well, they don't really understand the law that's involved. You know, like even
I have a question with that too.
Go
the plot twist one. So with NFTs, they're non-fungible. So with tainted coins, technically isn't Bitcoin a non-fungible token? And if so, does BTC, BCH, or BSV all qualify as a non-fungible token the same way, or would BSV be different than the other two because of not checkpoint? Like, I don't understand that part. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question.
So I can explain it.
Mhm.
So a Bitcoin, which is BSV as designed and described and outlined in the white paper, is a commodity due to solving the paradox of the centralized starting point and having the 5 pillars of decentralization in place, which are the chain of signatures, fixed supply, locked protocol, infinite scale, and competition between those who sustain the network. If you change any of that, it immediately becomes a security offering. So BTC, by implementing SegWit, which meant that they are now no longer accountable to anybody, means that they have changed Bitcoin from a commodity and to a security, which means it therefore has no value as money. And if it has no value as money, it cannot economically sustain the network that it is currently supporting. It will crash to zero because it's worthless. And so Roger Ver and his mates added Schnorr signatures. Now, Schnorr signatures mean that there is no reasonable expectation in trade because you cannot prove who you've sent the money to, and the people who receive the money can't prove who sent it to them because the Schnorr signatures allow for anonymity. So,
question on that. So with like Monero and other places that have like a view key, is that different? Because then if you want to share that information, you can prove this is how it was sent and who sent it, whereas Schnorr signatures doesn't have that option?
I'm not too sure about that in particular, but what I can tell you is that there are two things that people get confused about. They get mixed up between anonymity and privacy.
Sure.
So anonymity is what you have and what you would want in the toilet cubicle. Nobody knows you're in there. You can do whatever you want. You know, you're on your own. Privacy is what you and your partner have behind the bedroom door. So you can engage with each other, but no third parties can spy on you or know what you're doing. So you can trade privately. That's private. And that's the fundamental difference between anonymity and privacy, which these people who are trying to spread fear, uncertainty, and doubt about Bitcoin constantly mix up on purpose. You know, they'll talk about privacy as if it's anonymity, because people are confused between the two. There's another one that people get confused about as well. I was thinking to myself earlier, I need to remember this for the show. Let me just see if I can rack my brain. Oh, never mind. We'll come back to it another time.
So then BSV would count as a fungible token, but BCH and BTC would not count. So even if people were trying to build NFTs on top of BTC or Bitcoin Cash, it wouldn't work as such because it's already starting off as not being fungible. Can you claim that BSV is fungible? I guess is my main question.
Yeah, BSV is fungible because every single BSV, every single bit of data is the same as every other bit of data.
So tainted coins wouldn't apply to BSV. It would only be applying to like Bitcoin Cash and BTC.
Well, you have to explain to me what a painted coin is.
Oh, tainted.
Tainted coins.
Oh, yeah. So tainted coin is something
but I
that's
don't know
used in.
details that much. It's kind of like you were involved in this transaction, and like we think it's a questionable transaction.
You engaged in crime when you used
like,
this coin, and then you passed it on to someone else. So the
right,
coin's
so
now
now
tainted with the crime.
Yeah, it's like if you got a dollar bill that a hooker used coke on, now it's not a dollar bill. Like, okay, you didn't really have control over who had it before you, essentially, or after you.
Yeah, so Craig explained this, where he was saying that if somebody might have a tainted coin, which is classed as proceeds of crime, if that coin is then passed on to somebody else and used as a medium of exchange in trade, it's just simply a medium of exchange, and goods and services have been traded for that, and then you have an innocent party involved. So that's fine, but you know, if for the party that was involved in crime, well, if they are using those coins with someone else, and that party doesn't know that they're previously using tainted coins, it means that they're not going to be too concerned about being anonymous with them, which just basically means law enforcement can track them down and say, right, who did you get these coins from? Because whoever it was you got these coins from was involved in a crime. And then, oh, right, well, obviously they don't want anything to do with it. And law enforcement can make them, go to court and confess where they got it from. And then the criminal's just going to get caught. That's it.
The whole thing is just kind of overwhelming and absurd to me. Like, I don't know who I got a $20 bill in my wallet from. Like, how would I be able to prove that? That makes no sense to me. I know with a blockchain, like, you do have a ledger, but it's still like, I don't know. I don't know who I got that from.
It would get complex fast, wouldn't it? Because if you think, one BSV's got however many units in it. How many? We should know this. I should know this.
There's 7 or 8 decimals.
Yes. I think the 16th decimal point.
Anyway, the point being that they all shoot off in different directions to different people, don't they? And before you know it, it's quite a thing to unpick.
Right.
But what we were talking about is the
fungibility aspect of all that. Yeah.
Well, it's just the fact that so BCH using Schnorr signatures means that there is no reasonable expectation in trade, which also means that using not having a record of a transaction, will have some kind of legal ramifications there, because the government wants to know what you are doing. Well, it's not that they want to know what you're doing, because they're not interested in people who are just simply going about their business, conducting normal trade. But what they are interested in is people who are, smuggling drugs, selling naughty images of children, human trafficking, selling human organs, smuggling, animals, all the abhorrent, unethical, immoral, criminal behavior that, criminals engage in. They're not bothered about, Mr. Jones, selling a packet of peas to his neighbor. There is nothing wrong with that. They're literally just going back. And the reason they're not bothered about people doing normal stuff is because that doesn't affect society. The reason they want to track down criminals is because the effects that criminals have on society have a multiplied negative effect on everybody. Let's say it's the 6 degrees of separation. So it's kind of like I've often thought that bad news travels faster than good news, because if you do something good, that good, whoever it is you've done a good deed for might tell maybe one other person about it. So I quite enjoyed this, blah 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 blah. However, if you've done something negative to someone, they'll probably gossip more about that to about 6 other people. And so that also applies to the negative effects that it has. If you've kidnapped a child, I mean, you've got mums and dads and brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts and cousins, who are all going to be affected by that. If you've got a crack den that's, you've got drug dealers constantly coming and going, you've got children that are exposed to it, asking mummy and daddy what's going on over there, obviously just kind of like a questionable behavior. People don't want that. And then when they don't want that, they therefore end up going to the police. And if the police are overrun, and they're not handling very well, politicians get involved because, obviously people are complaining. And then if nothing seems to get done, politicians lose their seat in government. So that's why politicians don't want crime, because they don't want to.
Right, in an ideal world.
Ideally. I think they get
if we're accountable. But what does fungible mean?
So fungible just means that it's identical to it's when it's divided, it's
interchangeable.
So identical to its counterpart. Almost like twins, really. They're equal value, and there's no difference between them.
Right.
So
apples to apples.
Yeah. So data is just simply data. But data on let's say an anonymous network has no value as money, because there is nobody holding the creator of that network to account, because the network is anonymous. That's the whole point. So anonymous networks, anonymous cryptocurrencies have no value as money because the person who created it is anonymous. So therefore they have complete control over it. And if they have complete control over it, it's not a commodity.
So couldn't you have argued that about Bitcoin before this 10 years of, potential, like whether he's the actual creator, was on the team, wasn't, details, but like, wouldn't you be able to argue that about Bitcoin then under that same idea?
Well, this is it. So Bitcoin is not anonymous. It's a private network. And
okay, so I mixed them up then the same way that we talked about earlier.
Right.
Yeah. So you might be confusing you're confusing anonymity with privacy.
There we go. All right. Maybe that's fine.
So Bitcoin is private, which makes it fine, because people are equally accountable due to the chain of signatures that Satoshi Nakamoto designed within the network. That's why these criminal elements, a Blockstream, for example, they were just like, all right, well, we're not going to remove the signatures. What we're going to do is segregate them. So people are just like, oh, well, it's all right. They're just maybe making it better. There's more room in the block. But what they don't tell you is that actually by segregating the signatures, the entity who segregated those signatures is now accountable to nobody, which means they have total control of the network, which means the network now has no fundamental value as money because they control it.
And Satoshi, when do you think this is going to wash out? I mean, when is this going to all come out, do you think, and bring it down? I mean, is there going to be some kind of legal ruling, or is it going to be a case of big exchanges going to the wall? I mean, when do you think this shit's going to hit the fan?
Oh yeah, good question. I'm actually going to have this discussion with those people higher up about this very topic very soon. So with Bitcoin, it is going to be it's corporations first, because corporations are the most nosiest of nosy neighbors on the planet, because they are constantly keeping an eye on their competitors. So therefore, if their competitors get a competitive edge on them, they're going to want in on this. So the moment you get a corporation using the Bitcoin network and demonstrating economies of scale in data efficiencies, data security, and everything else, literally all the corporations are going to pile in, because they can see the savings. They can see the fact that there is data efficiencies and data security there, which can save them millions, if not billions of dollars, because they can do away with all of their own servers. They don't need all that stuff anymore. And they've got, and one of the things that I find fascinating is that if you're a financial institution in the UK, if you lose a single record of a customer's transactions, no matter how small, you can be instantly fined 10% of gross global profits, because it's trust that underpins the entire financial system. So that's why financial institutions like banks, retail banks, are paranoid about keeping their data safe, which is why they write once and read many. They store it in multiple locations on multiple servers and employ lots of data service providers like Amazon Web Services and Microsoft Cloud and all these things, just trying to record their data in as many places as possible. So if a cyber attack happens or a server goes down or something, they've got records of it. Whereas now they don't need any of that. They can just simply upload everything onto the Bitcoin network for the cost of a micro payment.
Wow.
That's the value proposition. It's absolutely massive. So it's usually relatively small corporations that are more willing to take a risk on this thing, because they're the ones that are just like, look, we need to be innovative in order to compete with our larger rivals. So therefore, you get a company like Worldline. And even though Worldline has got a $3.4 billion turnover, that is peanuts, absolute peanuts in comparison to their, peers who are much larger and bigger, who have got hundreds of billions of dollars of turnover on an annual basis. So they're just like, all right, you know what, we're going to test this Bitcoin network thing. We will try it. So because Worldline is a point, they have points of sale terminals. Imagine the difference between the Visa and MasterCard networks that have to charge about, 2%, because, there's so much cost in maintaining the network, because the network is just, they are solely responsible for maintaining and running the network. And there are huge overhead costs. Whereas the Bitcoin network, there are none of that, because miners are economically sustained by Bitcoin itself. And it's already distributed. So therefore, data can be uploaded, literally a micropayment in a nanosecond, and all your data is on chain. It's secured. So the moment Worldline sort of comes online, and and other companies like Visa and MasterCard are just like, whoa, what have they done? Literally, the floodgates are open. That is it. So chances are that's what's really gonna open the floodgates. But there are going to be other little dominoes before that, like probably, for example, this Crypto Open Patent Alliance court case with Craig. That's probably gonna generate some interest from people, and some people might say, oh right, there's credibility in this, what does this mean, blah 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 blah. But it's all eventually heading towards the utility that Bitcoin provides, which is data efficiency and data security. Because it's unlimited data storage.
That's the positive case. But I think what I was trying to get at is all this securities law. When do you think that shit's going to hit the fan? I mean, didn't Ethereum get a pass from the SEC? Oh, I don't know, a while back now. I couldn't tell you exactly when. Do you think that they're going to come back with this? And do you think it's going to be when the central banks launch their own digital currencies, they're going to not want the competition anymore, and they might start pulling plugs?
Well, I think eventually, what's going to happen is that a medium of exchange is a tool. So it's a tool that enables, encourages, and accelerates the facilitation of trade. Now, that service is competitive because people are just simply going to use the tool that facilitates trade in the best way. And the tool that facilitates trade in the best way is also, funnily enough, the tool that everyone's going to use, because they all want to facilitate trade in the best way. So when everybody starts using Bitcoin, which is BSV, and then suddenly all these other projects start diminishing, that's when questions of people are going to be like, well, hold on a minute, what's this? You promised us this, and you told us X, Y, and Z. That's turned out to be a load of bollocks.
Right.
So and that's about mentality of just the securities mentality, right? That's kind of taken over. It's overshadowed.
It's become the main story, and it's not the right story.
It's deflected from what is
the real value of the network.
Well, so people are, they need to understand. Well, this is why they're trying to change the narrative, saying, it's digital gold, you're not meant to use it, store of value, bollocks. They're trying to move away from it being cash. Cash is money. Cash is the most liquid form of money. Money has to be a commodity. And like I said, a commodity is something that doesn't have that central point of authority or control. So how do you make a digital network a commodity? Well, you do that with the 5 pillars of decentralization and proof of work, diluting that centralized starting point over a period of 10 years. So you've got the neutral growth there, and then you've got the 5 pillars of decentralization on top of that. That's what makes Bitcoin unique and what makes Bitcoin a commodity.
I think the best thing we can do, though, is to stay legal, isn't it? That's the point. If BSV can stay legal all the way through, then we have the best hope of nobody trying to sort of interfere or pull any plugs on us.
Yeah, there's obviously the when Craig wins this COPA lawsuit, many people are going to start asking questions. How does this mean? What does this mean? How did the judge come to this conclusion? How has this happened? Fingers are going to start being pointed, and those intelligent people will start asking questions. And those intelligent people will start digging. However, you are going to get the dregs of society like Peter McCormack, who literally do not have a Scooby-Doo, and like Tone Vays and Jimmy Song and all that, who just are just simply going to be going on proof of social media because they have no clue. Because they don't have the intellectual capacity to actually figure out what Bitcoin is. Or even if somebody told them what it was, they still wouldn't get it.
it strikes me lately that they've been a lot of these commentators have been describing BSV whenever they're interviewed, when they're actually, you know, they're selling BTC and they're describing BSV, and I think it's really bad misrepresentation.
We know who we're talking
Yeah,
about.
we do.
Yeah, that's
we do.
false.
Ruth, what did he say his name?
Michael Saylor.
Hey.
Max Kaiser.
Right, exactly.
Well, I knew
Yeah.
it was Michael
Well,
Saylor
and-
you were referring to.
These people are also instructing and giving, you know, they say it's not financial advice, but I heard Michael Saylor clearly say, go take out a loan on your house, buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like, put everything you have of value into buying this.
It's
I don't-
so irresponsible.
I don't see how there's not so much financial devastation coming, because people intuitively know that we have a major problem economically, globally. We can all feel it. Something is coming massive.
But you know,
they think that this space is their way out of the, you know, turmoil of that, and they're actually getting, you know, strategically funneled into a liquidity grab, in my observation. And all the people that refuse to actually acknowledge BSV, like Elon Musk and you know, all these people that all these experts in the space have contacted, they've been educated. They're refusing to acknowledge it, especially publicly, for a specific reason. And that is what everyone needs to collectively start talking about. What is that reason? And what is the agenda that they don't want to lose these power structures over us because of? So, yeah.
Thank you, Casey. Yes, good point.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
So I think these people, a lot of these people, I don't know, I guess they could be, you know, we have one life to live. This is it, you know, and I think I'm thankful that we can be authentic. We can always be learning and growing. And yes, there could be a lot of people out there who are trying to knock down what is the best option. But they will fall away, you know, we will slough them off.
I agree. I lived through the .com bubble. 'Cause I'm pretty old. And, you know, we've got the same bullshit happening now as happened then.
Sure.
Back in 2000, you had a load of businesses, you know, naming themselves, rebranding themselves as .com without really offering anything of any substance whatsoever. And it was a gold rush, and it's exactly the same sort of situation. There was a prevailing narrative that just collapsed. And that's what we're going to get pretty soon, I think.
Well, the thing is, I do agree with you. It can collapse, but there are nefarious entities who will do anything, and they will stop at nothing
I agree.
to protect the US dollar. And that is the entity that we're up against.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, whenever you go on Twitter and you've got all these Twitter trolls, they are blatantly paid. I had one, I was trolling one guy, you know, on a Sunday afternoon because I had nothing better to do. And he spent all afternoon explaining to me that the US dollar was better than Bitcoin because I could actually spend the US dollar. And I was just like, really? Wow. I didn't know I could spend a US dollar. Amazing. I mean, literally, why on earth would somebody spend all afternoon, you know, a time out of their day explaining to me something so arbitrary that I could spend the money? You know, they're blatantly paid. And then you see all these fake profiles up. It's really, I mean, it's going to be, they're not going to go down without a fight.
No.
So I think as Bitcoin starts to prove itself as BSV, there are going to be more shenanigans, you know, on
and
route.
Maybe in a sense we should be grateful that we've got the cover of BTC at the minute.
Well, and hopefully,
because they're the main target, aren't they? Sorry, Casey.
That's okay. I'm just saying, I'm really hoping that because of all the confusion throughout the world of the technology and the anonymity versus the private and all that, there have been a lot of opportunity for law enforcement to be doing sting operations in the background, because people don't really understand what they've been using to do their nefarious deeds. So I'm hoping that kind of
criminal cleanup stuff can be used to help propel this whole space forward and get rid of a lot of that, strategic alliances in the space that are allowing for all these things to occur. This isn't just people making individual transactions. There's like a whole network of the crypto crime cartel, which is same people that are the global elite cartel. So it's just, this is their playground, and they think they have been acting anonymously, and hopefully that from people like Kurt Wuckert at CoinGeek explaining they have been doing sting operations using the blockchain and all these different ERC20 tokens and all that kind of stuff. So
the only problem is the people that would enforce that kind of stuff are usually the ones that are in charge of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you fix that problem? I don't know if any human can. Maybe that's like a out of our hands scenario, but
yeah, we've got to clean up the courts too, but it's all connected. The people that run the courts are the people that are running the crypto crime cartel. Like it's the same group of people. So if we can just start shining that spotlight, that lighthouse right on them in their faces, and like collectively ask all the right questions and stop fighting amongst each other. Like we have to actually go directly to the source of the issue that's creating the ripple effects globally, and it's not just this space. So that's why they're shorting BSV by so much, over 80 to 90%, because it's the greatest threat to that control that they have. So I mean, that's why I take action every single day to build the platform, and the program that I'm building is with the intention of helping to propel mass adoption through education and streamlined onboarding, and like making it real easy where people don't have to be confused and they don't have to take that time to learn. I just streamline their whole entry and get them all ready to just start monetizing their content. And that's what it takes. And the targeted people that I'm going for are your A-list marketers and your activists and influencers that have huge followings, because I want the mass adoption to occur faster. I feel like we are in country in distress, global countries in distress. There's no more borders when you start getting at these levels. These people are funding all the wars, they're funding all the trauma, all the racism, all the division, and it's got to be stopped from the highest levels. And that takes us looking at them and saying, why are you doing that?
Exactly. And women are a huge part of that.
Especially when they tap into that protective like mom energy and start paying attention. Watch out.
Literally, that is the driving force behind every action I take, is this little baby.
The world of
it. They are going to inherit everything that we collectively leave, and it's really
we better make sure it's good.
What's happening to youth right now. The amount of drug addicted parents and the trauma that children are enduring from living in these households of fentanyl, and my parents were heroin addicts. I don't know how many drug houses I was taken to my first 2 years of life. I was picked up from a house and had bruises all over me, like I had been beat. Like nobody knows. I don't have
good grief, Casey. I had no idea.
I was adopted at 3 by my aunt and uncle, and my life was not terrible, but those first imprints, we as parents don't understand that a child's brain is in record mode for the first 7 years. Like everything that they are seeing and hearing will be the core beliefs that they base every future decision off of. And that is really hard programming to rewrite as an adult. Like I'm trying real hard to break these patterns of the generational trauma that was instilled. And this is such, when you start getting into these levels and start looking at these people that are people/entities that are making all these decisions for the planet and the people on it and inhabitants of it, it gets very into the weeds as far as energy and metaphysics and all that stuff. And I really just think that they're playing such a more multidimensional chess game on us, that since we're not acknowledging those realms and those dimensions and those things that they're playing in, we're getting totally
taken over.
I agree that the amount of mind control that we've seen in the past
Yeah.
18 months is absolutely blown my
The
mind.
psychographic
Yeah.
that they're
Yeah.
doing with these shadow operations and the marketing on us and the narrative control, like
Mhm.
that's what we're taking back with BSV, is that data that they use against us to
Yeah.
Right.
manipulate the
We're going to
herd.
record
Like,
it, and it's
yeah.
going to be there forever, and
This is
nobody's going to be
the-
able to remove it.
This is the best
Yeah.
tool for digital boots on the ground
Yeah.
to take back humanity's power. Like this, hands down, is the strongest tool we can use. So that's the
It's a shield and a sword.
Yeah. That's why the
Yeah,
logo.
good one.
Ooh,
It
yes.
is indeed. I've got a shield and a sword in my picture.
You have. I was going to say it's very apt, very apt.
That's why we love you so much, Sirtoshi.
Yeah, it is. It is, because you're great on the education. Shall we wrap this up, guys? We've been going for an hour and a half.
Oh, well, one more thing then. I'll just add quickly. Going back to these power sources that you were talking about, let me tell you this one story. So the flash crash that occurred on May 6th, 2010, which wiped off $1 trillion off the, I think it was the Chicago stock exchange, where literally the market disappeared. And they were just like, how can a market disappear unless it's been wiped out by a nuclear bomb or something like that? You know, where is this? You cannot have a market disappear. This is crazy. Anyway, they pinned it on this poor guy, this Asperger's kid from London called Navinder Singh, who was basically trading out of his mum and dad's bedroom. And he'd done well for himself. He'd made a few million quid, right? But they reckon he was responsible for taking $1 trillion off of the Chicago stock exchange, which is absolutely insane. And then they were saying that, oh yeah, well, in a lie, there is always some part of the lie that doesn't make sense. And they said, oh, this is the weird part. So he appears to have turned his computer off 5 minutes before the crash took place, because he said he was going to have a dinner with his parents because he was living in their house. But if he turned his computer off before the market crashed, it means he wasn't trading the crash, which means he didn't profit from it. So anyway, it was a complete cover story. They found out who had done it by looking at the data. It was this financial company called Waddell & Reed, who basically spent about $4 billion wiping out $1 trillion off the market. Now, they're the kind of figures that you'd expect. Now, check this out. So when this documentary crew approached the Securities and Exchange Commission, they said to them, well, you know, who is it that caused this crash, and what do you think caused it? And they were like, oh, well, you know, it was this trade that this poor kid in England had done, you know, and the way we recognize that is that, you know, you just look at the trades every second, and it was definitely this big trade that did it. And then they said, well, what about the trades between those seconds? And the SEC said, and this was their cover story, there's no point in looking at transactions less than a second because there's too much noise. That's what they said, too much noise. However, they took all these the figures to a high frequency trading analyst who said you can only see what actually happened if you go down to the micro to the nanosecond. And when you look at the trades on a nanosecond, you can then see them clear as day what caused this crash. And it was Waddell & Reed who made those trades. And so the SEC, and then when this documentary crew said to the SEC, oh, you know, so, something about, you know, did you look at this and who's involved? And they said, oh, well, you know, we're restricted to the information that we have access to, due to whatever it is, privacy laws and whatever. But the high frequency trading analyst was just said the SEC's got access to everything because they are law enforcement. They would know. So, and this is the other thing. In order to make a lie, you have to have a fundamental understanding of the truth in order to make sure that you can try and cover it up as best you can. So you've got the SEC saying, oh, yeah, you know, there's no point in looking at it in under a second because there's too much noise. That's the lie. So you've got to ask yourself, how is it that Waddell & Reed were able to get away with it and the SEC cover it up? Who is pulling the strings? Well, again, it's this power that's doing it, that's behind the scenes. And I'm telling you, this power has got fingers in AIG. That's their little money laundering front, where they, you know, print all this money and send it through. They're in the pharmaceuticals because the money gets printed and very little gets returned to the government. And they're also in high frequency trading firms. Again, so it's all finance. But that's complicated, that's protected by governmental bodies that they control.
And they're in agriculture and
Yeah.
and
Yeah, all of that. And Bitcoin will expose the lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, I like that
Get
lighthouse
to it, because there's so much we can do.
Well, don't forget, Craig Wright was a forensic analyst, wasn't he?
yes.
In a
And
former.
the first time I
career.
ever talked to Kurt, I asked him, I said, I feel like they've been doing sting operations in the background. And he said, yes. And he couldn't say anything else about it.
I'm sure. Because you
4D chess.
Yeah. And that's what we needed all this time. Like all these generations, millions of years of humans being whatevered on this planet, I say farmed. And I mean, all the times that they've been able to wipe the history of what happened and start over and continue their projects on humanity.
Yeah.
To me, this is a new era, having the blockchain as, a tool to keep that record. This is our modern day Library of Alexandria that they cannot burn.
Right.
So there's just so much importance to get this technology out and the education of it. I love that Theory of Bitcoin YouTube channel. I really came on today just to learn. I am right now at the point, where I'm not a techie type person. I just intuitively know that this technology is very important. And I went ahead and took massive action with my business to just get out there and not wait until I understood it all to do something. I just know I don't have to understand the tech and the tokens and the NFTs and all that stuff just yet. I know that this is an important tool. I know that they're suppressing it for a reason. All this civil war has been fought. They're not fighting this hard for no reason. So many of their resources and time and things have been put into stopping this from spreading. So it's just, I appreciate you so much, Sirtoshi, today coming on and explaining this all to us. I just came on to learn, and I want to do this again and keep growing and learning with all of you. It's so helpful to have that accountability to do it together. And, we are up against
women love doing things together. We got to go to the bathroom together. We got to do interviews together.
Well, we've got to stick together so much at this time. We have, we have strength in our unity and our numbers.
We do.
So,
we do.
And we also, if you start getting into the type of energy games that they're playing on us, and start researching the tools that we can take this stuff even a step further in the BSV space, is coming together in these coherent intentions and doing stuff these are the energy games they're playing with us. They know how to manipulate the magnetic fields of the earth, and they don't want us to know that we know we can do it too. You know what I mean? There's just so much going on here, and this blockchain is a way for us to take all that hidden secret knowledge that they've intentionally taken from us and put it back out to the public. So I look forward to all of those, tools that come out. And
right, like Weather SV. I didn't get why that was such a cool project, and then I really sat and thought about it, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, that data should be kept consistent and unchanged. And
I'm a drone pilot, so predict ecology, things like that. I can fly my drone on a coastline and help map that. That changes as the Earth is changing, and we can have take back control of the climate change narratives and that they're trying to say this is happening here. Well, hey, there's a bounty on that flight. Go fly that as a pilot, double check that, put it on the blockchain. You know what I mean? We have the opportunity to really take back all of our power.
I'm
here.
sick of narratives. It's time for truth.
Right. So if people watch this episode and they feel inspired now, they're like, okay, maybe I like Craig, maybe I don't, but I feel like you've kind of changed my mind on BSV with this stuff. What are some positive resources we could leave people with? I would say learn about abusive relationships, so you see warning flags on stuff,
Oh God,
and
yes, yeah.
that'll just help you personally and as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
right? And then, like, if you wanted to put your business on BSV, what would you need? Where would you go? Who would you need to contact? If someone's like, I love that I could host my business on BSV, who do I reach out to? What would we say to them?
So
Casey
I am building that, and anybody that wants to help me. Like, this is an important hub that people need for this education, to be able to onboard all of the things that they're currently doing on the legacy internet for their marketing and advertising and social networking, and come through the Take Your Brand to the Blockchain experience and membership site with Brand on Chain Academy. And you will have everything you need from A to Z, click by click, whether it's you doing it yourself, or me doing it with you, or one of these other ladies doing it with you, in a white glove onboarding service where we, streamline it and give you all the education you need, so there's no confusion, no downtime, and you're ready to go and start monetizing instantly. So as far as I know right now, I'm one of the only people out here that's trying to hold that space. And I just know that I'm trying to duplicate what I'm doing, because it's so needed, and we have so many people to get this information out to. There's so much abundance, and it's not about the money, it's about mass adoption.
Yeah.
So
Would you say like bsvdevs.com is a good resource they would go to? Like, what, like for hers, it's more like the marketing and monetizing your micropayments on your content. But if you wanted to use BSV and the miners as like the servers instead of having Amazon host you, like where would you go for that? If you're a business owner and you wanted to make that transition.
Generally speaking, you probably want to start off by adding a money button or a Pay Presto or a Relay X button, something like that, to your website. It's probably the fastest way to get started. But developing like a
Unisot has the ERP plugin for companies that want to take their business data on chain.
Oh,
what is it? What?
Unisot.
Universal Source of Truth.
UNISOT. Unisot. Yes.
Huh.
Say that. What are they doing, Rory? What is it exactly?
The
they
seafood
have
one.
Pardon?
The seafood guys?
Exactly.
Supply chain. Okay.
Supply chain management,
exactly.
which is something they really need right now. They're intentionally
doing Oracle services
and buying it and putting it in warehouses, like trying to create an artificial food shortage so they can do all kinds of stuff right now.
It's
so
panic, people.
Supply chain shenanigans are in full swing. Like, we need Unisot so bad. We need this stuff. I mean, and this is going to stop them in their tracks when these technologies are implemented.
So if you like owned a restaurant, how would you utilize Unisot to like, right? Like you have all that inventory come in with the meat and the other items that,
Right. We should totally do a call with them.
Yeah, we should. There we go. Next episode.
Yeah.
Good.
So shall we say goodbye, folks? Because it's dinner time, frankly.
Have you got any last minute questions for me on commodities and securities? Have I explained them okay?
I think you did a great job. I mean, I think there's always more that you could say, because it is a complex subject. But I think if we've got a basic grasp now of commodity versus a security, and why securities are problematic, don't we? Sirtoshi, just tell us all the places that people can find you online.
So they can find me on Twitch, which is my Twitch user is 1208, and Casey's is 1209. That's how we first got in contact with each other. We're Twitch neighbors. So long as you're not either a dirty trader, a troll, or a shitcoiner.
Yeah, because he will block
follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter. Yeah, so if you're one of the lucky ones,
you've got a real trigger finger for blocking, haven't you?
I've got no patience. Yeah, I've got no patience for Twitter. And other than that, you can watch my videos every day. Go to our YouTube. You just search for Bitcoin SV, one word, TV. and then my channel should come up, unless they are shadow banning me, which wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
But then it's on Streamanity, right?
Yeah. Go to Streamanity. You
So
just
you're
go
good.
to Sirtoshi.tv. That's the one.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Sirtoshi. Thank you, ladies. It's been really educational. And
Been a pleasure. I've loved it. Long live Women of BSV. I think this is an awesome kind of podcast. This could really start gaining momentum and certainly attracting attention, because there really aren't many groups of females in the space kind of showing solidarity together. So this is extremely unique.
Right.
Looking forward to this in the future. Looking forward to seeing this podcast as well.
The women that find crypto and then the women that find BSV are very niche and very unique in general. So if you're that, come find us.
When I'm talking to clients and telling them about the audience that they have access to with these advertising platforms and stuff, you're marketing to some of the smartest people in the world, some of the people that are paying the most attention, and then have found their way to the genuine Bitcoin is a big deal. For
nothing gets past us.
Mindset.
Nothing gets past us.
So, and it's an untapped, market that's unsaturated and ready to receive valuable content. So, I look forward to creating much more valuable content with all of you. I love you all so much. Happy weekend, and we'll connect soon.
I'm going to play the outro, guys.
Ooh.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Sirtoshi.
See ya.
Bye.